Okay, let's see. Let's see. And hopefully worked. Let me check. Oh, good, it's not come up.
It looks like a live just popped up here. I got a notification because I have my supernatural.
I've just got it too.
I got
We live, guys. Can everybody see us?
on.
Yeah, we're on, mate. It's just popping up now. Chat's just appeared. Lovely darts, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the fix. Paul Lynn is joining me. We're going to start by breaking some comedy news, ladies and gentlemen. Comedy news.
Yeah.
So tonight is Monday is it the 30th? Monday the 30th, I think.
The 30th. It is the 30th.
It is the 30th, yes. And we pinned this in a couple of weeks ago. But even then, Lord had a plan. To not let this show go ahead as planned because Rolly Ray Lipinge has had his flight delayed. And he's stuck in the air at the moment. Flying back from Arm Wars, which is incidentally where I've come from. I've left all the guys in the hotel and headed home in order to do the show. Craig Vickland is right there at Arm Wars. Craig, hope you're well in the hotel, brother. Thank you, super chat, mate. And then, absolute classic. I've got to be honest, I love this. So about 30 minutes ago, I received a WhatsApp message from my mate Ryan. And it says, Neil, I hate you. I'm not coming on. It was other words. He said, shall I read it? I think I'll read it because I don't want to cock it up. Just bear with me. Very cordial. Don't worry, there's no drama. We got enough drama. Benji Mac, charge of the Light Brigade, yo brother. Yes, mates. Listen, you know who the guy is, and he's called Paul Lynn. You know who the guy is. Paul Lynn's the guy. So let's it's going to be me and Paul, guys, until Rolly Ray gets off the plane, we believe. But anyway, let's hold for now. And I'll try and find Ryan's message. It's a very nice message. He's put, hey, mate, because he knows me. Just woke up and saw your poster about the fix. Well, don't tell me you misread a message about live. That doesn't sound like you. What are you talking about? Then he put, I won't be able to go live with you guys. Where Shatner I are in the region of New South Wales has absolutely terrible mobile data that can't handle a live. And we have severe storms at the moment, and my parents' Wi-Fi is completely down. So that's 3 angles covered to cut off any chance of me saying, come on, Ryan, steal a bike and pedal to your mate's house where the Wi-Fi is great.
I mean, it is Australia, man. If something could happen, it's going to be in Australia. They got bit by scorpions or something.
You could set off and get eaten by a shark on the high street.
Now the storms are coming. And it's a big country. They probably don't have data some of those places.
No chance that there's any data in New South Wales. They don't even have the wheel, Paul.
They don't even have, they're rolling around with cars with square wheels.
This is my favourite bit. Hopefully, all is smooth waters with the sport here. Oh, from here on in anyway. Talk about your all-time backfires. Don't believe that's necessarily the case. And he's put, they've re-established communication between Engen and Robert. I've got faith it will come good. Apologies for the inconvenience. Have a great show. Ryan, thanks, mate. Love that sentiment. A little bit more than 30 minutes notice would have helped it to be a great show. But we'll try our very best, pal. We will try our very best. Benji Mac with another little super chat. I love it. I can't actually get over that message. It's quite cool. So Benji's just got. Oh, what's going on here? Can you still see me, Paul? Screen's gone black.
I can see you, buddy. I can see you. You're good.
Holy frig has gone on there.
It's the storms in Australia.
Yeah.
They've made it to the UK.
See this? Thrown me. That has. Ryan, those New South Walian storms have nailed me. But Paul called you too and told you he'd be early. Mate, listen. Don't worry about Paul and Benji. Paul Lane's all right. He's dialed in. Paul's freaking bulletproof. Some nights he'll come on here with traps out for the ladies. Some nights he'll come here with the hat and the tee. He don't care. 250 people watching for that disappointment, Ryan.
Yeah.
Gutted, mate. Thought we're putting the band back together, son. What's happened? So anyway, joking aside, pretty turbulent times, Paul. Pretty turbulent
Yeah,
times.
man. Yeah, man. I tell you, I tell you, there's, I try to be, because I am not necessarily at heart, but I try to be an eternal optimist, right? Especially in relationships. I think every relationship can get mended. My grandmother on my dad's side, who I lived with when I was really young, uh, her life was crazy. And like at one point in time, we were living in a trailer because the house got raided, counting my dad. And like we had nothing, and we're waiting on court proceedings and everything. And all she did was laugh and smile. It was the craziest thing I ever seen. And I'd be like, I said, Grandma, why are you so happy with everything that's going on? And she said, Paul, if you're not laughing, you're crying. I choose to laugh my way to happiness. And I think this is one of those situations where if we make the best of this thing and we continue to stay optimistic and look at all the different angles, I think everything can be fixed. And we can talk plenty more about that, and I think we'll have plenty to cover. But I'm going to keep that. I'm going to keep that mentality moving forward with all this stuff we got going on, because I think we're in a good place overall, and we can't afford to let it go and let some negativity creep in and rain on the parade per se.
I hope you're right, mate. I mean, look, let's talk about a bit of a reality check here. When we put this idea together, it was about just over a week ago, I think. I contacted Paul, Ryan, and Ray. Say, look, this is what we could do. Try and get all the fixed crew back together to show a little bit of solidarity thing and a bit of unity, that you can gel things together. It was kind of the idea. And obviously, we wanted to come on here and not really be overly judging any of the angles. I think we're on a similar page about that. But we wanted to give a bit of a balanced perspective.
Yeah.
And that's what we will try to do tonight. And any questions that we do get, we will try to answer them, myself and Paul, with what we do know. So Cesar Manuzka, hopefully 7962. Hopefully I didn't muff that. You two, ideal global reps for arm wrestling. True pros with passion. Trying the best, mate. We are trying our best. And I want to say hello to everybody in the chat as well. A lot of great names in there. I haven't got time to run through them all, but Andy Beckett's in there. Brad Butler's in there. We got an absolute ton of people in that are always regulars. And it's you guys that make this sport great also.
Yes, it is.
308 people, Paul, in here now.
It's awesome. And like we touched on this before. And ultimately, when we're looking at the big picture and where we're at right now, and we can go into this, but we have an incredibly great yet sometimes fickle community. And I think we've all gotten to know, such a huge percentage, and got new people coming all the time. And I think there's some importance in understanding our community, right? And things like this come up and people pick sides, and sometimes there's misinformation, there's varying perspectives and things of that nature. But our community is what's driving us, really. Like the pay-per-view sales, guys. I mean, you guys are like, we can't do this right now at all without those pay-per-view sales, and we can't afford to have pay-per-view sales drop because of some drama or anything like that. Because there's times where I feel like we're hanging on by the skin of our teeth, but we're right at the cusp of cracking into something big, and that's usually the way it happens. You're right. Like, sometimes you're hanging on by a thread, and then you get the breakthrough. So big thank you to everybody who tunes in to this stuff and cares about it. But I think, Neil, like, it's important moving forward with all the information that's coming out in the different perspectives, to be able to see them all. Because I don't think a single party involved in this has ill will or bad intentions at all. I think every human being involved in any of this controversy, whether from the East or the West, they all want the best for arm wrestling. It's just different people have different perspectives. So I try to keep, anytime I'm getting swayed one way or another, I try and refocus myself and say, are the intentions good? And I think I can say pretty confidently that everybody's overall intentions are good. So I try to keep that perspective when we're navigating through these muddy waters at times.
I'm on exactly the same page, mate. And as you have, we've got the advantage of being in a position where we're in contact with most of the key players within this whole scenario. And there's an old saying in the UK that, and it's probably more widely spread than that, to be honest, but a little bit of information is a dangerous thing.
Yeah, it's all or nothing. And when you get in that, when you get in the gray area, that's where people make assumptions. I had a discussion with some people about this, some social media people in the arm wrestling community,
Mhm.
and those assumptions are they're making them as logically as they can with their thought process, and they're putting out conclusions based on assumptions. But ultimately, the problem is little bits of information were shared,
Yes.
not the whole story. So it's all or nothing, and that's the trickiness. When there's when there's missing parts of a story, people fill in those parts, and the story changes real quick. So
Even some of the things that are out there to a degree in on social media in the public sort of hemisphere now, or when you know more a little bit more about it and you're into the detail a little bit more, are not exactly as they're being perceived, and it does disappoint me. I understand entirely why, but it does disappoint me when you see some of the channels drawing hard and fast conclusions about things that they don't actually understand fully. The reality of the situation we've all got to accept to some extent, including myself, is that we have some information. We do not have all the information.
yeah,
A lot of the guys that are actively involved on the front line of this conversation and discussion don't have all the information. As you said earlier, it's around the different perspectives. Everybody's got their own angle, and everybody's got a point they want to cover off and get into the equation, have other people consider it, when often you're too blinded by your own objectives. And there's
mm-hmm,
definitely quite a lot of that out there from both sides.
for
Obviously,
sure.
you're dealing with passionate people, you're dealing with people who are leaders, you're dealing with people who've got very strong opinions. And sometimes that creates a situation where you get a lot of you're knocking heads together. It's very, very hard to try to get those guys on the same page. And there's truth in all of the perspectives. But it's been very interesting listening to some of the feedback and also thinking about the rationale for that feedback going out into the public hemisphere, because some of it is purely and simply being over dramatized to create drama, to create views, to create clicks. And while I do understand that, for me personally, it's pretty bloody disappointing, because ultimately one of the casualties of that can be the sport of arm wrestling, where it is at this point in time. And that would be a travesty, mate, because as you say, we are in a very, very good position at the moment. The sport has been going from strength to strength. And it's not at the moment we're living in that, oh, it's going to strength in East versus West. Yeah, but it's going to from strength to strength everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
If you come outside of that, we've just had the Arm Wars Iron House, and Arm Wars Titan House 2. It's literally going on. We've got some of the best guys over here right now in a hotel 20 minutes away from here. We had Brian Shaw and Eddie Hall here over the weekend, Lawrence Shartley, Rob Frampton, Rebecca Roberts, all training in the Titan House. Shameless plug. Only some matches there as well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
dude.
that's what I'm. So we got some negative stuff going on, man. Hopefully your production when it comes out
Mate,
shed some positive light back in
it
there.
was
Let's
awesome,
go. I
pal.
mean, like,
And it you know what? It breathed new life back into me in a pretty depressing week last week, because watching
good,
those
good.
guys who were um, hardcore arm wrestlers bust their ass on the table there and get into wars, introducing some of the new talent that's out there that you've probably never heard of,
Hmm.
facing off against some of the old guard names was amazing. And some of those matches, as our channel members will see, are frigging ridiculous. And it underlined to me, this is what arm wrestling's really about. In the United States of America, in Germany, Latvia, Italy, you name it, whatever country you're in, there's hordes and hordes of these hardcore arm wrestlers, and they've increased dramatically by the growth of the sport. And it's those people, those individuals, those men and women that are doing this thing that are really growing the sport. Sure, you need the vehicle. Sure, you do. And it's great that that's happened. And I personally love East versus West. EVW
Me
sports
too.
events are awesome. When we were in
Second
the
to none.
States the other week, dude, how good was that? You know,
Yeah, unreal.
the
And
line
that's what
outside, Paul. God
it's
damn.
wild. It's wild. I mean, like, and that's the thing that the pay per view. We had some issues with pay per view, some different things went on, but ultimately, like, I can speak for anybody who was there when I said that place was electric the whole time. Those
Yes, it
matches,
was.
so many good matches. The energy was awesome. I've never taken pictures and signed things so many times. I'm just blown away by the incredible support that was there. Now, there might have been some live feed things and whatever else, but man, I can tell you, like, it's bucket list stuff. I shared Artem
Yeah,
Taranenko's behind the scenes clips that he caught throughout that weekend.
yeah.
And man, if that don't highlight why you got to make it to one of these things, nothing will.
You know what was
So
cool as well, mate? Not often, we go there and we've had big crowds, and you have a situation where a lot of the people in those crowds are arm wrestlers themselves. I met a number of people over that weekend who were non-arm. I
yep,
actually asked them, you puller, you're not a puller. They were not arm wrestlers. They were fans,
yep,
internet fans. They said, look, we follow the sport. They got into it through different varied routes, and they were fans of the sport. They followed the
yep.
sport, and they internalized it.
I had this.
It
I
was
had the same
awesome.
experience. Same experience more than at any other event. Like, there's been times at other events, one or two here or there, say, because my default question is that, somebody comes up and asks for a picture. I say, what's your name? You know what I mean? Where do you live? Where do you pull?
Mm.
And what team are you working with or whatever. And yeah, more than ever, there were people who were like, I don't pull.
Yeah,
And I'm like, are you planning on pulling? And we go, and they know.
yeah,
So, like, true fans. And I mean, that marks big time progress. Because, like, as I said, I mean, I've said this, I don't know, I just throw this number out there that we're dealing with that 80/20,
yeah.
where 80% of our pay-per-view sales, merch sales, and in-person tickets are most likely coming from somebody who has placed their elbow on a table at some point, an actual arm wrestling table. The numbers may even be more skewed. And we are trying, and East versus West is trying to change that number. Ultimately, we'd love it to be 80/20 the opposite way,
Sure.
but that's going to take time.
Yes, it is.
The, the two or three or four people that you meet at these events and that compiling over time is that's got to be the goal. But who knows how long that's going to take? That ain't going to happen overnight. The good news is the signs are there that it's starting to happen.
And the negative of the new guys coming in, of the new people coming in, and there being a little bit of a lack of knowledge, and all of us have a lack of detail. And I want to wind the clock back in a moment to discuss this further, and I'm sure you'll have a lot to say on it. But the negative is that everybody that out there that has come into the sport for a reason, motivated by this guy, that girl, this person, whatever, they all think, okay, I'm a hardcore believer in this guy. I'm in. Either they think, this person's done an amazing amount for the sport, or this is the biggest name of the sport, and they jump on, and whatever is the situation, it is blindly argued, blindly followed, no real thought about what you were saying a moment ago. And yet, when you are speaking to all of these parties, which I've done, and I'm sure you've done the same over the last few days, even during the Arm Wars tournament, I've been speaking to these people, really cordial conversations in the most part with all of them. And what is really clear and really evident is they'll start to talk to you and they'll say, and there's still a lot of frustration there, and they'll go, you know what, have you seen that? That this person's put that, written this, and they think it's this. And actually, they're completely wrong. That's a third of it, but the real context is this, 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 and this. So they're miles off. And we've got a constant miscommunication, constant there's a redirection of that perception needed. And honestly, mate, not only just because I've been involved with the Arm Wars Iron House and the Titan House this weekend and was busy as balls with that, I also feel like I don't want to be the guy who recreates that scenario again. So a lot of it, I don't want to get into the real nitty gritty of it with people and start throwing too much knowledge around and pretending I've got all the answers, because I don't.
Mhm.
Because you can only ever see so much of the lane. And sometimes when I've been on people, on with people, I've actively said, well, we need to really think about this and what's the best avenue to progress it. Because even if you are leaning towards a certain perspective, or your heart or mind tells you that a certain perspective is better, sometime you've got to think, okay, how much of what I'm seeing here is going to be true? How much of it's going to be loosely based in fact, have been twisted a little bit by one or other party, or just, if you're less skeptical than that, misunderstood a little bit, particularly when you're dealing with different cultures, different languages, which we are here. And
Mhm.
do I want to be the person that spins that over again and creates more of an issue because I see it a certain way? And I want to just make a key point here. In most instances, in most businesses, companies, whatever, how often will you see these kind of conversations played out in the public forum? Very minimal. Very minimal. What, you think this kind of stuff doesn't go on all over the place? Yes, of course. But it isn't played out. Almost like there's a warmth within the sport of arm wrestling, accessibility within the sport
Yes.
of arm wrestling that allows us all to have this window on the soul of the sport. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
in reality, I don't necessarily feel that that's beneficial all the time, because the rumor mill spins and people with a snapshot of reality go off and make up their own narrative. And there is a massive amount of that. Some well intended, some less so. But it's certainly really evident.
For sure, for sure. And you know what? The accessibility thing, I think at times, yeah, that can be tricky. But I think that's one of the things that makes our sport special. You
Yeah.
know, the most of the highest level arm wrestlers are willing to take your DMs, answer your questions, talk to you
Yep.
whenever, whenever this that makes it special. You don't have that in the other sports. But that's also what makes it small. So inevitably, if all these goals are achieved one day, maybe 10 years from now, that all that goodness that we have, some of that'll go away. You know what I mean? And you look at the angles getting spun all over the place. Like, look, Neil, you were like, let's do this fix thing. I was like, absolutely, I'm all in. Let's have a show of solidarity. Let's talk about these things. Let's talk about the positives. What we know. How do we move forward? And you were like, put a video out, just announce it. Somehow, my little rinky dink channel gets 14,000 views. That shows that people care, because nothing gets 14,000 views on my channel. So that they cared more about that in the moment, or YouTube figured some algorithm thing out that this was the most important thing to talk about in arm wrestling. But at the end of the day, when you look at that, and there's clicks that are happening, and there's channels that know there's clicks happening, whatever. But that old saying of like, no publicity is bad publicity, right? So it's spreading. There's videos getting watched, as long as everything turns out in the very, very end to be better, or to be good. That's the silver lining. And that's kind of like, again, that eternal optimist hope is like, okay, maybe we go through a bunch of turmoil, there's a bunch of videos, maybe some new people see videos, they say, ooh, drama, and then they get roped into arm wrestling. Everything's good. And, eventually at some point things settle and we go into the Brian Shaw event, and then the Azerbaijan event, and they go off. Now we're in a better place.
Yep.
So my my hopes are, regardless of all this turmoil, that this stuff winds up bringing us together, right? So every family, every group of people, friends fight, right? Yeah, just use friends for example. Now I got a close group of friends who argue all the time.
Hmm.
And sometimes the arguments get really heated, and lines are crossed and things like that. But ultimately, if those arguments are reconciled, you wind up getting a little bit closer, you know? And, the positive and negatives throughout relationships over time, compounded over time with the commitment, ultimately makes them better. So, maybe we're 5 years from now, we look back on this whole thing and say, man, that was funny.
Hmm.
And we wound up having the best event ever afterwards. So, I mean, that's the hope, man, because ultimately we can look at these things and we can say some of them are business related, maybe. We can speculate that they're petty individual disagreements, whatever.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think everyone agrees in a healthy environment that arm wrestling as a whole, as far as competitors from whatever walk of life in whatever country, and
Yeah.
as far as the people who are currently promoting and running the events and involved in the events, arm wrestling as a whole, East versus West, is better together. Like if it can function correctly together, 100% better. The
Yeah.
solution doesn't always mean excommunicating this person or that person. Taking away a skill set from any equation doesn't strengthen it.
No. No. And there's an enormous amount goes along with that experience, and the other one that comes in there, which I can't overlook, is that I've never been a fan of pushing somebody out or marginalizing somebody, really. Most people who know me know that that's the case. The reason for that is because I would hate to think that, number one, you can't be man enough to suck it up and move on. I'm not
Right.
saying everything's a rosy outcome. Sometimes it's
Sure.
just better to go your separate way. But I wouldn't want to see someone who genuinely loves the sport or is so deeply ingrained in the sport pushed out of the sport because of a disagreement. Certainly with me, anyway.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be about that. I don't think that anybody is bigger than the sport personally. And I think that my biggest thing with all this is I'm hoping people aren't missing the point that by taking a very hard stance and not understanding that might be a little bit
Yep.
more grey than black and white involved in this whole
Yep.
thing, they actually damage the sport which everybody loves. And
Yep.
sometimes, if you're a true friend of someone, you've got to also get hold of them and go, "Hey, mate, you know what? Let me put an arm around you and tell you that there's a couple of flaws in your view here, maybe, and maybe you need to slow it down and think, if I go this way, does it create more harm than good? And are you going to wake up in a few months and think, oh no, what the hell have I done? And I think there's a little bit of that in there too, you know?
For sure. For sure. Football related thing. I mean, we used to, I've had two coaches that have said nobody's bigger than the program. Not me, not our top rusher, not our top tackler, and the
Mm.
best guy in the future to ever come through this program. And nobody's bigger than the program.
Yeah.
Program was here before us. Program will be here after us. You know what I mean? That's what we need. That's where we need to get in arm wrestling. Imagine that, a sport so established or a league so established that no one's bigger than.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's got to be the goal. I mean, when you talk about, hey, everybody throws mainstream around. No, I mean, mainstream. I don't even know if I'm super eager for the idea of mainstream. I'm kind of more eager for the acceptance and the legitimacy. You know,
I think
maybe
even if
that
the
comes
sport
along with
went
mainstream.
mainstream, it would be mainstream at a level, and then there will be
Yeah,
layers. A lot of people have, for me, false fears around. If it goes mainstream, it'll be inaccessible at all levels. And I kind of don't agree. I
yeah,
think it would become more distant in certain areas. But let's say something like the UFC, which has now gone mainstream. You know, it's a really big, very accepted sport. But you can go down to a grassroots MMA gym and you'll get the experience that you used to get back in the day at the top tier of the thing. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes you've got to, and one of the things that I want to make a real point of here, there are people preaching the gospel in the sport at the moment, and they are preaching it with confidence and with authority, as though they really are deeply ingrained and have all the answers. They can see the angles, and there's the conclusion, and let's ping it out there. And in reality, under any kind of stringent analysis, it will collapse like a pack of cards because they really don't know the slightest thing about which they're talking. Really, not a clue. I don't have all the angles, but I know a bloody sight more than they do.
yeah,
That's a fact.
yeah.
And that's the situation we're in. You know, in the last few days, I've spoken to Hengin Terzi multiple times, Robert Baxter, Devon Lara, multiple times. So
Mhm.
I've got more of an angle than a lot of the people that are going out there and claiming that I saw this, so that is it, and there's the villain, there's the person. This is a bad guy. That's a bad guy. This person is a bastard. They're trying to work. They're the enemy. They're this. Not the kid. Chill out. and try to. I could sit them down, say, "Mother, have a cup of coffee, have a biscuit, and let me give you a couple of counterpoints, which might make you think, you know what? Well, if I knew that, that'd change my perception slightly."
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can tell you that if you're one of those guys out there and you're thinking, "Are you talking about me?" Maybe I am. Then maybe you should think, have a breath and think, what's my ultimate goal here? Because I'm doing well in the sport of arm wrestling. So maybe going out there and throwing hand grenades all over the place and starting fires isn't so conducive to keeping the sport that I love going. Maybe.
Right. And it's also kind of the acceptance of the unknown too. Like, are we being real with ourselves if we think all of a sudden one day here a video is going to come out and all the information is going to somehow come from everybody's perspective and we're going to have a clear as day picture and that's all we're waiting for? Like, there's too much, there's too many perspectives, there's too many things, too many unknowns, so they're probably not going to get revealed. Bits and pieces might, who knows, but to me at the end of the day it just comes back to, let's move forward and let's do it together. And that's kind of mean, I just, I think of it from the athlete perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and the divide there. Like ultimately, the league is the league, the business side is the business side, that is what it is. But when it comes to the athletes having an opportunity to stay together, like I understand the perspective of some of these guys and I don't blame them. I understand how their perceptions are coming to where they're at. But
I do
what
too.
I'm saying, and yeah, and as I said in the meeting, I implore everybody to come together and work together. And if there's a lack of trust, let's give it some time and let's try and build it. Right? Like, how is trust built? It's trust. Trust is built through experience, right? If you're a sucker and you give people full trust right away, you set yourself up for a downfall. But if you start someone off at a 5 out of 10 standard, and that can slide up and down based off of your experience. I think it takes time to build that up to a comfortable level, and we need to continue to work and continue to move forward, all parties, and then reevaluate that trust. But let's at least work towards something before we panic. And I think like the community, from every perspective, was hit with a boatload of panic after that event. I know personally it ruined it. It kind of didn't ruin it, but it jaded my experience at the end. You know,
Yeah.
having everything that transpired right after the event, there was no real, you know, no adrenaline dump or emotional. Like it was just right into the next thing, and my phone's been ringing off the hook since. Not
Well,
sleeping
ultimately, mate, we
all
now
night.
know, and we both know for sure that the sort of the situation of being on the simmer
Hmm.
before the event took place. You know,
Hmm. Yeah,
there it had been simmering for a little while. So when we got
sure.
out there, it was actually we were seeing the back end of something rather than the front end of it. And then it's just
Yep.
escalated from there, and unfortunately got blown out into the
Yep.
public realm before it was maybe beneficial for it to do so, and certainly without anywhere near the clarity and
Yeah.
detail being understood by 90% of the people.
Yeah.
A great deal of comments coming in there from people that don't have the info, and that's where
Yeah.
it's most, for me,
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
very frustrating.
There were, listen, I think we'll all agree there were communication mistakes made
Yeah,
and right? That the way information was disseminated left a lot to be desired. And I'm not just saying about, I'm talking about it like a bigger scale, kind of how this stuff's getting out and everything. You talk
yeah.
about like the all or none approach, and the transparency or, the comms on this whole thing have been iffy for sure.
Yeah,
And
sometimes
that's allowed
a
for a
little
lot.
gentler would have been a good approach by some of the people, with the hard line, right? I
Yeah.
will compete there. I will not. What about, okay, I'm going to still compete. I'm going to do this because it's for the good of the sport of arm wrestling that I keep this thing going. But whilst I do that, I'm going to become more actively involved to voice my opinion to the organizers,
Right.
sit down with them, call them, set up a call with them to
Yeah.
influence what they're doing and what's happening and voice my concerns in any of these
Right.
areas,
And I think that's a key point right there from the athlete perspective, right? We're moving forward, right? And we all love arm wrestling, and I'm sure every single person who is actively competing at East versus Western has has had
Somebody has
an
just joined
incredible.
here, Paul, and I'm going to check who this is, and I don't actually know.
Okay, surprise.
Hmm.
But yeah, in any case, I think like the arm wrestlers, I think, yeah, maybe
Hmm.
we are employees per se, but ultimately, like I think we all feel highly invested. Oh, what's going on?
So we are being joined by a pretty key player in the game right now. Dev, good evening, buddy.
Hey, I was just laying around, just watching the show. I can no longer see the chats, but the chats were very interesting.
So,
So
how
I,
much of the show have you caught, Devon?
I just probably the last maybe 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, obviously, we've tried to cover some ground, but it's largely been around trying to get the message out there that some of the perceptions that are in the public forum at the moment and
Yeah.
the emotion behind it probably wouldn't be at such a climax if there was actually full disclosure on some of this stuff,
Yeah.
which you're never really going to get.
Full disclosure would be great. And some
Yeah, but
people are saying things and influencing people
yeah,
and manipulating people. I did hear the part where you said, um, Paul, I like the way you said it's great if no one's bigger than the league.
yep,
Yeah.
That's
yep,
we should all be working towards building the collective league, the unity of the league. This should be the number one thought in all of our minds. I get accused of all sorts of things. Okay, my skin has gotten quite thick, but it's interesting. When you think of who is talking about leaving the league, who is leaving the league, okay? And yet who is being accused of destroying the league? Who's staying, who's going, who is pulling people away, you know. It's interesting. I see a lot of people in I can't see the comments right now,
I
but
can't either.
Well, funnily
I,
enough,
I
we've had quite a few super chats in a moment. Just for anybody who is super chatting, hold for a while because the ones we've got in, I don't want to discourage super chats, guys, but I want to make sure we address all of these. And the ones we've got in at the moment, we will run through and we'll try to give you as much clarity on there as we possibly can. And
I would just say real quick, I've been tracking a little bit. There's a couple narratives, okay? The first one is that I'm an owner. Um, I'm a person of influence. I'm not an owner. Uh, the second thing is that I have control over the rules. Okay, this is just a crazy thing to say. I have always had suggestions. Some of my rules have been incorporated by different leagues. I've come up with rules that have been incorporated by WAF. I've had rules that have been incorporated. Um, Actually, that's probably about the only league that's actually incorporated one of my rules. A lot of leagues have consulted with me, asked me ideas. It's been rejected. There's been conversations. I don't write the rules. The only rules that I've ever written and I'm in charge of are the freedom arm wrestling rules. That's it. I don't run the rules. Do you think that I control the referees? You're crazy. Go back and watch what happened in in Georgia, okay, and tell me that I control the referees or the rules, okay? Um, all the people who were saying this stuff, you guys need to smarten up, okay? You need to smarten up and take a look at what's actually going on.
I think what I when you hopped on Devin, I was kind of leading into a point. Um, I think it's important that we everyone understands that arm wrestling, although it's booming and it's in its renaissance or whatever we might say, ultimately it's still an infant, you know. And we all, as pullers, as promoters, as fans, as supporters, we all have a responsibility to help raise that baby. Like if you love it, you should raise it. It takes a damn village. So we all have different levels of influence and we all have different levels, different attributes that we can bring. But if we're not doing something positive and productive to work together, then we're either being neutral or we're creating a divide. And I think that disseminates all the way to the arm wrestling community too. So guys who are being quick to pick a side, or decide, based off the information that they have, and be judge and jury, and then just stick with that side. It's like you feel this political background driving into the sport, which is concerning. And I think we're losing focus on, hey, ultimately at the end of the day, it's arm wrestling, and it's this league that's driving it, along with a bunch of others. But if we're going to be that league, we got to be that example. From the bottom up.
And when people are walking away for reasons that aren't even true, that's when you have to be like, hey, guys, give your head a shake. You're the one who's walking away, and you're walking away for a reason that's not even true. What's up, Ray?
Hey, guys. Sorry,
up,
I'm late. I'm sorry, I'm late.
Ray, are you home? Are you home, or you're in the airport?
Yeah, home.
I'm home.
Yeah, okay.
I'm home. So what I've been missing?
A lot. We got a lot of stuff.
It's all my fault, Ray. It's all my fault because I own the league and I control the referees.
What do you tell me after almost every press conference? I'm such a
Listen,
Yeah.
I just want to say that I'm in charge, and I'm going to bring back the circus, and everybody's going to be doing the King's move.
Well, Dev, if you own the league, can I buy a percentage? And I also agree. Let's make them pads a little bit bigger.
Sure, I can make that happen just like that. Let me just make it so. Yeah, no
So
problem,
guys,
buddy.
Let's get into some of these chats we've got, because we got a lot of fans that have come in here to try to get their point across and get their voice heard, and maybe we can try and walk through them really quick and see what we can come up with here. Answer what we can, where we can. And anybody who feels like they want to jump in, so just hold your super chats till we get through these guys. And the first one, Emerald Gasparini, thanks for your super chat, mate. Disappointing to see how quickly people turned on Devon and Jody. It's always interesting, isn't it? Because Paul said it right off the bounce tonight. The arm wrestling community, any community, fans can be fickle.
And the thing is, I don't even know how Jody or I got to be involved in any of this. This whole situation, Engen sold the league, Engen quit, the venue backed out, we set another venue with Brian Shaw. When news got back, that venue that was canceled then tried to reappear and get back in the action, and all hell broke loose. How this is my fault, I don't know. But I guess it is, because I don't know. I guess it's my fault.
It comes back to the full disclosure thing. And, if we had it all to do again, it should be all or none. And in this case, it should have been none.
Let's fully disclose what's missing. What piece of information is missing that is going to make people understand?
I don't think that's what I'm saying. I think there's nothing now because people have already drawn conclusions and picked sides and wanting to go to war, and it is what it is. Ultimately, I don't think it's unsalvageable. It's the same message I've been saying. I think the silver lining to all this is we got a whole lot of hype around this issue, which is getting a lot of views and getting a lot of people, probably new people too, clicking on videos and saying, what is this drama? Ooh, I like drama, And if we come out on top at the back end, we'll look back 3-4 years from now when everything's wonderful and say, how funny was that? Remember when we were all fighting? Like, that's, to me, I feel like.
Man, I hope you're right, Paul.
I'm going to stay the eternal optimist. I don't care, guys. Until the house is burnt down to ashes, I'm going to say we can fix it. Just ultimately, that's what I got to do.
No, that's fair enough, mate.
Paul sitting in a house of fire, just like, this is fine, everything's fine.
So let's walk through some of these. So John Lewis, 95.77. Thanks, mate. Appreciate your super chat. But who is the one lying? Is it Hermes, Engen, Devon, Baxter, Dexter, Don, Brian Shaw, Eddie Hall, Travis, or Roman? One of these people.
Travis always lies. Let's just get that straight. Travis is always lying.
That's his baseline.
What the Because Don
Baseline.
and Eddie Hall, how they found their way in there. How's Brian Shaw found his way in there?
I feel like
To be
Eddie
fair.
Hall. I feel like it's Eddie.
Yeah, it's
It's
probably
Eddie.
Eddie and Travis.
Eddie
No,
and
yeah.
Travis. If I have to pick sides.
Look, everybody sees their own truth a little bit in some of this stuff, and you've got a situation where, say, we all go and watch a film, the four of us, and you come out and you say, "Okay, talk me back through that film." There'll be bits of that film that it's the same film. Film was exactly the same, but you all see it slightly differently, and that's amplified over cultures and over languages. And there's definitely a degree of that because a couple of the guys that I've heard feedback to me what happened in the meeting, when we were both in the mother, I was in there and they were, and they said that happened, and I'd be like,
part of that
was it
part of that meeting was recorded. Did you know that?
awesome?
So the truth, we have the truth.
Very strong. That's good.
So that can come out anytime.
One of the things
And
there, though, is if you've got the ability
squash all the rumors about what did or didn't happen in the meeting.
Yeah, and that's good in a lot of ways because you can get to a situation where, let's just say, if some of the details of that are put across incorrectly,
exactly,
it can make something become very, very flared. I know for a fact that Engen, when I spoke to him the first time, he reiterated what he was of the opinion that this had been said, that this had taken place, and I said, mate, that is not actually what happened.
Well, we have it. You can hear very clearly my speaking part.
But Engen, at that point, would already be thinking, okay, this was said, and he's going to believe it. He's going to think, yeah, that's exactly what happened. When in actuality, slightly different. It was a little toned down. Yes, it wasn't positive, not at all, but it wasn't said in the manner that had been fed back to him. Anyway, Eric McAtee, mate, love this dude. Thanks for your super chat, brother. Hope you're well, Eric. But do you guys agree that the biggest hurdle is to mend the relationship between Engen and Devon?
That's got nothing to do. Our relationship should have nothing to do with East versus West. Should have nothing to do with the integrity of the league. Should have nothing to do with the future of the league. Our relationship should not preclude anyone from working and moving arm wrestling forward. Doesn't matter.
You don't have to even like each other. I used to work at a company where one of the guys who was the director of the company, I did not care for at all, and I'm sure the feeling was
it has nothing to do with arm wrestling's ability to flourish. This is something that is completely not a requirement to deal with on a public side. I'm fine. I am fine to talk about everything, but it's just not the right thing to do.
Well, let's finish his super chat. It's gone on to say, it seems those two are both holding trump cards to speak and are posturing with each other right now.
Look, it's not a secret. Engen and I aren't best of friends.
No.
Okay, we've had a long relationship where we've been able to get through because we have a common love of arm wrestling. There have been some incidents over the last year, probably not repairable. Probably not. Doesn't change for me my love of arming and my want to compete at the highest level for as long as I can. Doesn't change that at all. And I respect Engen's love for arm wrestling. He can do whatever he wants. But for him to be like blaming me for quitting the company, I got no problem. Engen can do whatever he wants.
What's an engaging point, though, isn't it, Dev? Because you can get to a situation where you think, okay, what's my governance here? What's my points of influence, factors of control on yourself?
Listen, I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you an example how my personal relationship with Engen has nothing to do with the company. People asked me, there's a new thing that's probably coming up Okay. And Engen was one of the people that I recommended for a position. Okay. I thought he'd be the most important person to have in a position. So just because I personally don't like him doesn't mean I don't recognize how good he is and how knowledgeable he is and how important he is in the sport. But don't say that just because we don't like each other that the company is bound to fail or something.
No.
Well,
There's
it's
a lot of
also
there's a lot of businesses that operate extremely efficiently with people who don't necessarily personally like each other.
big
It
time.
also can be a compliment. But it requires a level of professionalism and
Mate,
stuff to be
it can
able
be
to work
healthy.
with somebody. Yeah, it can be. It can be very healthy. Like contrasting opinions and approaches are very important for
If
like
you've got a
diversity and
strong
stability.
opinion that's
Yeah.
washing away all others,
Yeah. So let's
sometimes
just
you need that.
dismiss. Let's just dismiss that entire thing. Okay, that's just not important
Okay.
to East versus West. We don't need to be friends.
Okay, so let's move on and knock over some of these because there are quite a few. So, Cesar Monuska 7962, thanks, mate. Any idea on crowd-funded events? I'd be down to pay $20 for pay-per-view and also invest towards the event. True fans want success. For the people, by the people. Mate, sounds awesome, but right now, we're starting from scratch, brother. What we're looking at really is what is the situation in relation to where we are now. It's fair to say that arm wrestling has grown. And yes, I'm sure that if something went wrong, that void would be filled in one manner or another. However, the best way is to continue the momentum if we can do that, mate. That's genuinely something. Does anybody disagree with that?
No, not at all. I mean,
Okay.
I can speak from my own personal perspective on this. I only got like 15% of phone left, too, Neil. I'm gonna have to drop here in maybe 20 minutes. But my personal drive, if I take the objectiveness out and I say my own selfish drive, my primary number one reason for arm wrestling right now at this stage in my career is the opportunity to pull the best. That's it. I don't care about the money. I genuinely don't. Give me a flight, keep me on contract for no money. I've said it a million times. As long as I'm getting the opportunity to pull the best talent and prove to myself that I'm worthy to be there every time that I'm there. Because I have to reprove that to myself every event.
Well, let's
Because
be
I
honest,
allow
the
that.
majority of us that have been in the sport for a very long period of time did that for most of a career.
Right.
We
And
go
I'm
to a
thankful.
tournament in America
I'm
to
just thankful
pull
to
the
be
best guy.
there. And it gives me personal concern that if there's any chance of divide, we'll delude that. So, I mean, I think, yeah, of course something else will come up. We'll still be able to arm wrestle and everything. But like, let's get with the best that we can compete with, and let's keep that flowing. That's why,
That's been the
and I'm
difference
not,
maker, hasn't it? That's been.
yeah, and
There's been other excellent organisations that have done a great job.
sure,
The major difference where we are now with East versus West, in my opinion, is that
yeah,
ultimately we have got everyone from every country at that elite
yeah.
level all together, and it's synchronized, and that is worth a lot in my
Yeah.
opinion.
And Devin, it goes back to what you said about your quest, against the Europeans and stuff. When we were doing a WAL thing, hey, I love that. There's certain aspects of WAL I love,
Awesome.
more than any other league. But that was the big thing. Like, okay, now, in the past 4 years, Devin, you competed against all Europeans. Did you compete against any North Americans? Like in East versus West or King of the Table? None, probably, right?
No,
One.
I mean, I pulled Dave, I pulled Mike, but yeah, it's been mostly Europeans.
Early. 3 years of it, we've had
Yeah.
that opportunity to be on that quest as a group. And there's
Yeah.
nothing like the damn name, East versus West. I don't care if it doesn't matter to 90% of the people, because I give a damn about it, that whole idea and that concept. I personally do. I'm highly invested in it, and I don't want that to go away. It's brought a level of team aspect that I really identify with. I don't love the individual sports. I don't hate them, but I really like the team shit better. And those are my personal drives and why I'm willing to listen. maybe I sound corny with this sunshine and rainbow stuff, but ultimately it's not about that. When I say together, I don't mean best buddies or friends. I'm, shoot, we could hit. I played on teams with people I hated,
Yeah,
but when it came time, when it was game time, that dude's your brother because
fair
we're
enough.
working towards the same thing. So that's all I'm saying. I want everybody from every one of these countries, to hear the message that everyone needs to make some concessions, and they need to be man enough to be able to evaluate what concession can I make, what about my perspective is skewed, and what can I relinquish for that keeping everything together and the train on the tracks.
Fair enough, brother. Well, Mishref with a super chat. Thanks, mate. Much appreciated. An athlete shouldn't get involved inside the league owners and heads. Inside the league's owners and heads. That's my opinion. It only complicates things up. First thing I'd say on that is, mate, it's impossible for that to happen. For that not to happen. Utterly impossible. I don't care who you are. I don't care how non-biased you believe you are. If you went over to Dana White, if you went over to Eddie Hearn, if you went over to anyone, the key drivers in the promotion, the key drivers within their organization will carry significant influence and weight. And whether or not that person is vocal, they will nevertheless command consideration.
Here's the other thing. There is no way to avoid the perception. Okay? So it's almost like, hey, Devin, guess what? This sucks, dude. But there's no way that we're ever going to avoid this perception. Look at LeBron James. Look at like Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. Look through these different leagues. The perception that referees call things in their favor.
It's been that way for a long time. But the athletes need to smarten up and realize that it's just not true. Like the guys who are like dropping out of the league and stuff. Seriously, I like to use that hard R word. You guys are a bunch of retards. Like it's just not true, guys. Like smarten the fuck up. Like I'm not setting the rules. I'll pull you under whatever rules. I'm not making the rules so I can beat you. I pull under East versus West rules like we all do.
Yeah.
Like give your heads a fucking shake.
I think we all have our own. I think if we ask all four people on this panel right now, if they have an opinion on any rule somewhere that could make arm wrestling as a whole better, I think we would all say we would all have at least one.
Yeah.
So
maybe like 10, if you ask me.
Yeah. Well, it's the skewed perception that those rules are, we want those rules for our individual.
And guess what? It's not always for individual. I've made a lot of rules for the betterment. Like I think about fairness. Like when I think of rules, I think about fairness. I know everybody thinks that I'm just out to make rules for myself. It's not true. It's not true.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. I've had chats with you and we've not agreed on everything. We've disagreed on some things, but you're more than prepared to rationalize everything to me and have talked me around on some points. And even when you haven't, you've articulated it well and gone through it with depth. And that depth illustrates that you're genuinely thinking about a universal outcome. So that's a fair point, mate. To be honest. So let's have a look. The diligent student. 9876. Thank you, mate. Appreciate your super chats. But Neil, please no more dancing. Engen has done a lot for the sport, but he's known to block anyone who disagrees with him. His attitude is destroying the sport. Okay,
I thought the comment was about different dancing.
No, yeah. Oh, mate. Let's break off for a moment. First international dance-off since
1993.
1993 today.
Yeah.
International USA versus Spain went down today. High level dance off. After show dance off. Like literally like, oh, you think you've got the move right. I challenge you. We found the dance floor and it went down. Just saying. Right, here we go. Seaman Fulland. Thank you for your super chat, mate. Much appreciated. He's put, hi, Neil and Paul. Love you guys. And this will go to everybody because you just sent it before you guys got on. Love you guys and what you do for the sport. The Eastern Europeans seem to think Devon has power to change the rules in East versus West, and that seems to be why so many of them are pissed. Why would they think that? Why would they think that? To be honest, is because somehow that myth has been propagated into the community. Some people buy into it, others don't. And sometimes when there's a lot of passion and emotion in something, things catch fire.
Filling in blanks. People fill in blanks.
And
They make perceptions, and then you wind up left with them. But if you peel back all the layers, it's.
I think that I kind of thought about that a little bit the last few days. Do you remember the long talk that we had with Brian, Neil?
Yes.
About rules?
Yes.
And we had some suggestions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Brian was like, "Oh, well, maybe I'll try that at my event, maybe something like that."
Yeah, I remember that.
And then the Brian Shaw Classic is an East versus West event.
Yes.
Right. So I think that people kind of think along those lines, like that was a string. Now I've talked to Brian, and because of all this stuff, he's not changing any of the rules. He's not changing any of them. We had all sorts of ideas that we were gonna change. Like we thought about it, we talked about it. None of those are being changed now as a result of all this stuff. Yeah.
It would be cool to maybe still make some of those changes for the actual tournament and see how they work. Or something a little bit more.
I agree. I agree.
Maybe as Devon says, though, in the circumstances, I think the timing maybe.
I agree. But I'm all for the tweaking of stuff. And ultimately, as long as the rules are communicated ahead of time, every athlete should be able to compete underneath those rules, as that's a level playing field.
Yeah.
If the rules are communicated, that's why, we go to the rules meeting, I always dial in and pay attention. Did anything change? Because I don't want to have a match that is decided by my ignorance.
So next one we've got is Ermi Zasparini, or Emeroid Zasparini, excuse me. Thanks for your super chat, brother. He's put, unfortunately, the Eastern guys do not seem loyal to East versus West. They're loyal to Engin, which is a problem. Okay, I got a bit of a view on this also, because I've actually spoken to a couple of those Eastern guys who reached out to me. And when they reiterated through translation what their understanding of the situation was, and I asked them questions and they then answered what their opinion wasn't as super clean cut as you'd think. And it wasn't as taking sides as you think. And the reality of the situation was that some of them didn't really get the whole picture. Of course, as far as they're concerned, they see Engin as East versus West. Engin has done a great job to get where we are and has always dealt with his people very fairly. So if he said, I'm going to do this, invariably does it. So why would they not trust Engin, like Engin? And, they have every reason to do that. Fair enough. They don't really know, nor have they really communicated with EVW. Because when I said, okay, just for my purposes, what has happened badly, and I genuinely didn't know, behind closed doors with EVW, how have you been treated badly by them, or what's happened that you are upset by? And the answer came back in all three instances, nothing at all. Everything's been fine with EVW. No problem with EVW at all. It's just that Engin's been betrayed and he's getting kicked out. And
it's the fear of the unknown.
Engin, they didn't want that to happen, which is fair enough.
It's the fear of the unknown. You got a known quantity that you've been working under, whether you're 100% happy with it or not. You know it as a predictable known quantity. And now new faces are involved, and trust becomes an issue. And that, some of my conversations with Robert and Dexter, I highlighted that I think we need to take time to build relationships. And when I say we, I say it from the perspective of all of us have a part to play. If we're not bigger than the league and we're all partners in it in some capacity, like we as the West need to facilitate relationships with those who don't have trust. So, and that has to start like yesterday, and it's going to take some time. But like, I know, like, like Devin, you said, we've been going to Istanbul for 4 years, and Istanbul and Dubai, you know, and I've loved every minute of it, getting to know the different cultures and stuff and building relationships. And we just need a little bit more time of solidarity to build those relationships and build that trust and get everybody invested. And like we want a league where, I think I speak for most people when I say we want a league where we're all highly invested. We're not employees of that league per se. Of course, we might be making some money here or there, but I like the idea of feeling like a part of something bigger and working towards a higher cause. And I think if we can get a little bit of trust along with that idea, I don't know how to go about doing it other than spending a lot of time and having a lot of communication. But I think if we get there, we should be okay. We just got to bridge these gaps.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, mate.
Guys, I gotta run.
No worries,
I gotta
dude.
get ready. I gotta get ready for practice.
Good to
My
see
phone's
you.
dying
See you in a
too.
little while. We won't be on
My
here too
phone-
much.
Have a great evening, guys.
Devin, take care.
So next one, the Highlander. It's Kieran Morrison. Very interesting. This he's put. I'm here with Alex Koshadze, Joachim Skarin, Craig Vickland, and I just want to put it out there that we've decided that Alex Koshadze is the most boring person that we've ever met. Keep a close eye on Armwell's post coming out soon. Thanks for that, Kieran.
I can agree to that.
Boring Alex Koshadze.
Yes.
God damn. Boring motherfucker.
A lot of great qualities, but so boring.
Yeah, boring guy. Okay, Henry Bowerslow. Thank you very much for your super chat. He's put, Engin showed his true colours. Engin is greater than arm wrestling. No sabotage. Okay. Super Cyan Cody, thank you for your super chat. Short and sweet legends. Engin overrules and his lanes unilaterally. Equals no future needed change and only a matter of time until we're here again.
Guys, we get it. We get it. Okay.
Overflowing positivity.
We got it. It's like, hey, we're coming on here. We're trying to talk about a way forward, and we got everybody doing the tribalism thing again. I get it. You guys all have your opinions. You probably have really good stuff to support them, and I'm not even going to disagree with them. But ultimately, listen to what we're trying to do here.
I mean, let's be honest, guys. These fans are making decisions on what's right in front of them, on the information that's being taught to them. It's just a shame that some of that information is super flawed. And again, I'd implore some of the guys that are punching out the nonsense, chill. It's more grey than you know, guys. Cut that. I know, and here it is.
Yeah, and
it's nonsense.
Nobody's telling you that you're wrong. Like I trust that most of the fans are coming from a good place, and most of the people in the community, they want the best too, and they think that maybe we don't know. Nobody's gonna know. It's got to play out. But right now, I think it's important, to not let things get worse.
Yeah,
let's not escalate it. Let's de-escalate it. Let's get the fire extinguishers.
And let's allow the people that started this discussion to reach a conclusion where it really comes to. And then, ultimately they own the company and are involved. And one of them was the founder of the company. The others own it. Let's see if they can get somewhere with it. Here we go.
I'm going to stay on here. I'm going to stay on here till my phone dies, and I'm at like 4%. So when I'm not giving you guys an Irish goodbye. It's going to die on me though.
No problem, mate. We won't be on too much longer ourselves. We'll get through these and then we'll get out of here. New Era Landscaping 724. Neil, we understand Engin did a lot, but he chose to sell the company. The show continues. Devon, Smash Vitali. Fair enough, mate. The Diligent Student. Being a yes man is only one way. Sorry, I fucked that. Being a yes man is the only way to co-work with Engin. You can't have a business with such an egomaniac individual. Thanks, Devon, for being transparent. A lot of love coming in there. As I say, easy. Old Moldy Scroty B7V. Best name I've written tonight, that mate. No, that's our level. As an observer, seems like this mess couldn't have been avoided, and someone publicly dissuading pullers from threatening to quit, not naming names, but the name starts with an E and rhymes with Engin. That's for that.
Dissuading
Old
pullers from
moldy
quitting.
scroty B7B. You fine super chat. Well, Miss Ref, being inside a closed meeting with the owners is actually bad for the league's image and reputation. Also written in capitals. So why are you shouting? Thanks, well, Miss Ref. Appreciate super chat, mate. Kevin's 320. And I'm going to throw this one to Ray, even though he knows nothing about it and hasn't read it. Just because I feel like Ray, after a long day and a long flight, hasn't said shit for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Quiet ones.
You about to be up. I'm talking too much. I got to get out of here.
Where's Bowen?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, dude. Ryan sent me a message and he's like, Neil, you.
There is not one super chat about Ryan not being here. That's terrible.
Mate, he stood me up, Ray. He don't love me no more. He stood me up again. He said, is it live? I think he probably thinks he can come on tomorrow. It's okay.
Pre-recorded.
Anyway, so Kevin's 320. It would be best for Vitaly to compete in Colorado. However, would Devon consider facing Pavlo left-handed and Vitaly in Baku? I don't know. I'm not sure. Have we lost Paul? We may have lost Paul. Cesar Maluka 7962. People are social media these days to seek validation. Instead, we should be focusing upon validating the seriousness of arm wrestling for outsiders and work together. Pretty solid comment there, mate. Udipta. When WAL and PAL ended, arm wrestling didn't die. The sport is always bigger than the athlete and the promoter. Arm Wars, luckily, has always been about the sport. Oh, thank you, Paul. That's a really nice thing for you to write. And yeah, we believe that is the case. We do. And if you want to see an amazing match, you should have seen Rolly Ray's match this weekend. Oh, mate, he won't be able to tie his shoes for a week. Anyway, we'll tell you. I'm not saying with no results. Members, you'll get to see it. It was nice. It was nice. Let's have a look. Diabolical Billy. I haven't read it yet. This could be bad. Oh.
He's one of my favorites now.
Yeah, I've read a few there. So, oi, East versus West 18. Went sideways. The second Neil showed up looking like a Poundland bomb villain. That's what I was going for. Suit shinier than Liberace's sofa and tighter than a nun's bedtime prayers. Shoes sparked a disco ball power surge. Diabolical. I think I might know who that is. But anyway. Henry Bowerslaw. Thanks for your super chat. Ray, it was super nice of Engin to give you a little break, right? He even spared you from knowing it was happening. Such compassion. You think, right?
Oh, everyone needs a vacation, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Kevin's 320. If Engin sold 100% of East versus West, he needs to understand he is not in control anymore. He can't go and ruin everything because he does not get his way. Thank you, Kevin. And I think we are caught up on Super Chats. Let's have a look. Guys, we're only going to be on here for about 5-10 more minutes maximum because we got to get off because we're absolutely ruined. And Ryan didn't show up. The mother fluffer. Gutted. Why do you think Ryan didn't show up? It's devastating, isn't it?
I don't know.
Here we go. Neil, how good was Brian? How good has Brian got in 1 year? Brian was coming on lovely, mate. He's coming on. He's trying to internalize it all, keep that movement joined up and get better and better, and I'm sure he will. Guy's trying very, very hard. One thing he is, he's massively invested. He's going balls out. He's going balls out. Brad V219, yes, mate. Members channel there are some shirts coming out. They'll be out by the end of this week. I'm wearing one of them. The old Titan House is coming out. There's various stuff coming out. So get ready. That's coming out shortly. And there's also some coming out for non-members too. Mario Armfight Germany, thanks for your super chat. This live is spitting facts. Engin's been exposed. Not going necessarily the way that we wanted to sort of go with this in terms of like chilling out, guys. X-Men Wilson X Highlights 7879. It's okay if Engin left. We have Brian Shaw's event perfectly timed. Let's make that just as great. Listen, true that. I think the Brian Shaw event is a great opportunity for arm wrestling generally. What do you think, Ray?
I think so too. It's same kind of target audience that we're aiming for, and arm wrestling is becoming the big thing. Is almost everyone really wants to try it, and they want to understand why it's so goddamn hard. So I think it's a good thing, especially we can embed ourselves in a big event and be part of something like this, to have real like fans, people there. I think it's going to be an awesome thing.
And cross over some of those.
Can I say something? A little bit. So about this, the one of the super chats you read, and literally said like something about Engin and why he did this, and so this is just me, Also, I don't know, but
you don't sing, are you, Ray?
Yeah, I think first of all, even though Engin sold fully the company, he was still the guy. As most people looked at him as the guy, the owner, or however the guy in charge. Let's say it like this. And the whole situation, I'm not a fan if you are ready to burn something that you built. I really not a fan of that. But I understand maybe a little bit of his rationale. He probably wanted to leave it like he imagined it. So leaving it with someone that will protect the athletes, protect the rules, protect the things that right now he's kind of taking care of.
Yep.
And the Chicago thing, like Chicago event was like the matches were great, but production part just failed. It was terrible. And there was so many issues. And I think it kind of created perfect storm. And for Eastern Europeans, I think there's a lot of things. First of all, they deal just with Engin most of the time. So of course they're gonna see him as the guy that takes care of them. And if he's not there, they're afraid that no one's gonna take care of them. No one's gonna be there for their interest.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course you can steer up whatever you want to steer up by saying some things and bringing up things. And sometimes the facts kind of align with different theories. So I think it messed with a lot of people's brains. I do believe, like Engin, like however, hot-headed and hard-headed he is, he really loves arm wrestling.
Oh, without doubt.
Yeah, and he wants to protect this thing that he built, and I think some things were falling apart in his eyes, and that's how he imagined it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, listen, the whole situation that went down with me and him and everything, I would still try to protect the good parts about all this, even though like me and him, we don't see eye to eye on some things. I think the big picture is the same, but I do believe it's the same for Neil and for others.
Yeah,
but there was just
Nick. Sometimes I'm on very different page to Engin on stuff. Sometimes, I mean, the press conference was one famously. I think I don't like long press conferences. He likes it. His perspective on that is that the athletes all deserve an enormous amount of time on there, and that there's an audience that loves that. And the truth of it's probably somewhere in the middle. I think when you've got a 3-hour press conference or 2-hour press conference, it's very long, But as I say, it's sometimes healthy to have a different opinion on things, and some will like shorter press conference, some will like longer, and like you say, it's there's always going to be differences of opinion. I think the major concern with this is people are looking for facts, and I don't know whether you have even had all of the facts in relation to that, because it sort of just it happened.
No, I just saw what happened, and this would be my thinking. And I spoke to some Eastern Europeans, and I know what their points are, and some of them are valid points. and some of them are, in my mind, made up points, and I just don't see those things happen. But I think for Engen to leave this and just to be happy with it,
Yeah.
I think he just needs to be sure that it's going to be taken care of and it's not going to change. And then the whole things about like WL circus and everything else, and like you said, like Devin said, he has one of the loudest voices, and of course his voice carries a lot of weight, and of course people will listen, and that's what happens. So I'm still like, I'm not a fan of the how this went down, but I can understand a little bit of rationale. That's not something I would do. That's not something like most people would do. But I understand, like, if like, I don't know what is the right way to do in this situation.
No.
I think right now there should come a moment where we understand what is the main goal of the company. And I think if the company understands the main goal, that all the parties involved understand the goal. So this is our goal. This is what we're trying to achieve. When they say we want to go mainstream, what the hell does that mean? What does that mean? To be in TVs and movies and realities? Like, what is mainstream at this point? It's something that everyone knows.
Back
Okay,
to Kellogg's cornflakes or Wheaties box.
yeah, like what does that mean? I think there should be some okay, we want to create like the best league possible. We're gonna want to have more matchups, want to do I think that's a understandable goal, and then the mainstream and every other part will follow. But I don't know if that's what they're focusing on, and I think that's where the disconnect is sometimes happening, because
we're quite a while from it, aren't we? Let's be honest. We're quite a while from that. We're significant. I mean, this illustrates it. We are significant steps from that at this point in time.
Yeah, if something like this happens and it breaks the whole arm wrestling world, right? We're very far away, and we can't be there with just one league. We need small leagues. We need dozens of them. We want more arm wrestlers to have
because there is a lot of arm wrestlers.
Absolutely, and great arm wrestlers.
We need that elite. The EVW thing is great in that respect. I love it.
You want the mountain.
And then you want the WAF, that grassroots is also important.
Yes.
To bring through people from all the countries. You need those layers. The grassroots is super essential. Just so everybody that's on here in the chat, the people that are in here can go out and friggin' arm wrestle, and the sport's really accessible. That is super important. Without that, there is no fans for EVW, and EVW goes under, or any other, whoever it is, goes under anyway. We need to keep cultivating the thing and get it bigger and bigger. Okay, let's knock over these last couple of super chats, and then we're going to jump off here because Ray's just flown home after Arm Wars. I've just got home after we've been on it non-stop. And to be perfectly honest, we've been on here for an hour and a half anyway. So pretty muffed. I want to say a massive thanks before we do sign off tonight. Everybody who's taken time out to sign in and to come and check us out. Thanks for Rolly Ray after having flown back to Latvia for coming on, even though his plane was delayed and he hadn't landed when we started the bloody show. Thanks for the White Oak Paul Lynn, for being the White Oak Paul Lynn. Love that dude. And for the unexpectedly Dev dropping in. That was.
I just want to say, Paul Lynn is okay. I think.
Yeah, he's all right. He's
all right.
Phil, what are UK? So Phil, this weekend, great weekend as always, lads. Until next time, we'll see you soon, Phil. Good to see you this weekend, mate. Abby Van Taverma 1224. Thanks for your super chat, mate. Neil, honest opinion: Brian Shaw versus Big Loz, and Brian Shaw versus Rob Frampton. Who wins as of now? I think that Brian Shaw and Rob Frampton, I would say that is an interesting match, but I would give it to Brian Shaw because both guys are statically very strong, and Brian has got colossal levers, size. In order to do well with Brian, you need to try to unseat him and get him off balance, and he's getting better at that, without a shadow of a doubt. Eddie's still got a real chance through that explosivity and speed. One thing I would say at that point in time is I'm a massive fan of Rob Frampton, and I think that guy's going places. I think Rob Frampton's doing very well. Yeah, wins, losses, I get it, but I'll tell you, he's improving and he's unbelievably invested. So
yeah.
And Rob's another guy who's just had an absolute banger in the Iron House. So
yes. Yes.
Banger of a match. Get ready for that. That's coming out for the channel members. So July, guys, July and August, you're going to see some quality matches coming out. So here we go. Brian Shaw versus Lawrence Shockley. Right now, I would go Brian Shaw. Again, Lawrence has got a little bit of fast twitch capability there, but not quite joined up enough, I don't believe, to get around Brian and to engage with Brian. It's a little bit charge of the Light Brigade, and Lawrence is just starting to find his feet a little bit more technically. He was there at the Titan House this weekend, worked super hard, and I think he made great progress, actually. I think, in fact, in the circumstances, Lawrence Shockley might have made more progress than anybody else this weekend.
He was really, listen, he showed up just to work on that. And I said, like, weren't you supposed to pull a match? He's like, yeah, but Neil didn't tell me. He said, I'd rather just absorb the knowledge and get everything. He worked really hard. And
really worked hard and was, as the lad is very into it, isn't he?
Yes. And he will, like, I pick him as a heavy favorite versus Martin Schlietz. And Martin Schlietz is a Latvian, at least 50%. And but
Lisis is obviously former world's strongest man, super strong arms, and an absolute athlete.
Yeah.
But I think if you're looking at the arm wrestling match, I would favour. I hope I'm not cursing him, but I would favour Lawrence on arm wrestling experience. And right now, what are we? How far are we away? 6-7 weeks or so, and I think Lawrence is on a really steep upward trajectory from an understanding. In arm wrestling, sometimes things click, and you go a long way further forward. And anybody that's watching the Titan House 2, any of the channel members, if you're watching the Titan House 2, you will see we had a huge amount of progress made with the Titans this weekend. So Brian Shaw, Eddie Hall, working their ass off in there, and that was very interesting. Tiny clips have come out, and it is tiny clips have come out on Eddie and Brian's channels, but there's a hell of a lot more than that, and the channel members will see it. Also, Robbie Frampton, Rebecca Roberts, who is a very exciting talent, an absolute.
I was happy to see her there, and she was like in between the matches. She was getting on the table and working. So very excited, because first time I thought she wasn't really into it. She was like maybe a little bit. She's into it. So
oh my God, she's really into it. As is Laura Baxter,
like Bora's big
Katie
sister.
Smith,
Like Bora's big sister.
I'll tell you what, big sister, yeah. And Barbora's big sister for real. This is a big girl, and she loves it. And she's really keen, and she moves well. So keep your eyes open, guys. She's coming for you. Tyler Edelin Armarts. Come to New England, Ray. Plenty of pullers here. Mass, Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont will all show up. Yeah, there you got that from Rolly Ray, mate. Thanks for your super chat. Emerald Jasperini. To save East versus West, Engin needs to support Baxter 100%. Yes, mate. Guys, we're going to probably leave it there. Let me just check that I haven't got everybody's super chats, because I don't want to miss any. And then I'm going to go try and get some sleep, and I'm sure Ray's going to do the same. Been a friggin' long one. As I say, just one more shameless plug on the Arm Wars thing. This weekend was a banger, guys. 3 days of Titan House 2, Iron House. You're a member of the channel in July and August, you will get to see it all. It is coming down the tracks for you. You'll get to see all Brian Shaw and Eddie's training, which is ongoing. You'll get to see Lawrence, Rob, and Rebecca, which is ongoing, as well as the stuff that was in the Titan House over the weekend. And you'll get to see a super solid Iron House 5 card, which, whilst it was small, it was perfectly formed. There were some absolute wars and some characters you may not know that have just come out and shocked a lot of people and really announced themselves. Quality event coming up, guys. Quality. Rolly Ray, anything you want to chuck in there, mate? Let's give a little plug to Rolly Ray's merch. Because ladies and gentlemen, Voice of Arm Wrestling have launched a new merch line. Some of it's not available yet, but it's fit. Show them. Dude, show them the slider, son. Boom! Yes, that's the slider. When you're around the pool, when you're chilling out with your homies, you need your slider.
I just want to thank everyone who already made orders. We launched our site. We're going to print everything here in Latvia. Then I'm going to send it out with much love So everything you get is actually going to be strong, and you're going to be full of love. So I'm very happy there, and thank you guys for support. And listen, with all this situation that goes down, don't lose sight of what is important. Don't lose sight what the future holds for arm wrestling, and maybe even for you. So I don't think it's whatever solution we find, hopefully we find the best one where we move forward, not backwards. I don't want to go back to where we were 5 years ago. I think we made insanely forward. This is golden era of arm wrestling. We shouldn't let anyone ruin that, even ourselves. So keep yourselves down. Let's not make more drama. Let's make more peace. And that's what I feel like. So anyway, guys, stay strong. Love arm wrestling.
Ladies and gents, this has been The Fix. We will be back next weekend. Massive thank you to everybody. If you do us a favor, hit that subscribe button while you're here. It's a tiny thing, but it makes a great deal of difference to us. Get over there, support Ray, Voice of Arm Wrestling, and we'll see you on here again soon. Cheers, guys. Biggity bottom with a fluff.